Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the TripleJump podcast. It's a video game podcast. My name is Ben.
My name is Peter.
And my name is Ashton.
Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
All for the old gang back together.
Yeah. When was the gang not together?
Well, we were together last week.
We were together
but that
last
was on a
week.
Wednesday, and then it's been 4 days since we've seen you.
Yeah, so
I
this
forgot that we squeezed one in before you
we
left.
did manage to squeeze
Yeah.
one in. Yeah.
It was an after dark that we did that Ben
That's
wasn't
right.
part of.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I wasn't on there after dark. If you
No.
support us at patreon.com/Team TripleJump, you too can listen to After Dark, which is a bonus podcast where we don't talk about games.
No.
It's very good. You should go.
But all kinds of things
Oh,
this week. You missed a good
like,
one.
Sex talk and...
Oh, no, not sex talk.
Yeah, we talked
Gender
about
identity.
gender identity, and then we talked about what celebrity would be your least favorite person to be on a desert island with.
Just loads of stuff.
Yeah, loads of things.
Sounds good. Maybe I should
Sound
support that there Patreon.
Maybe you should.
And then I'd be able to listen to it and not miss out. You guys been up to much? You good?
Not really done anything, to be honest. Have you been up to much?
No, not really.
No,
Well,
just
you-
you went to a different country.
Went on holiday.
Went
yeah.
on holiday. That's
Yeah.
nice. That's being up to something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I suppose. Yeah, I did go on holiday, and that was very nice. The weather was better there than it is here.
It's hot, miserable today.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't rain while you were away, but yeah.
No, well, it
No.
did a little bit, little spits.
Well, here, I mean.
Oh right.
Yeah, we had nice
Okay.
weather, and now you've come back
So
and
I
it's
brought
rained
the
for
bad
3
weather
days straight.
You
Back
brought the
with
little
me.
spits.
Yeah.
I've got wet socks. I've got wet shoes and wet jeans.
I bought a different pair of trousers today because I was like, I'm going to get drenched.
better.
I have a 45-minute journey into work, and I was like, I'm not wearing wet jeans all day, so I bought in a lovely pair of joggy bottoms.
Joggy
Oh,
bottoms.
they are joggy bottoms.
They're very comfy.
I should have. Oh,
Oh.
God, this microphone. I should have thought ahead. Really, I for the longest time was carrying because this happened. This happens. This wetness. This does happen. And I was so fed up of it last time that I put a pair of socks in my bag, a
Yeah.
spare pair of socks, which have since been removed. And now I need them again, and they're gone. I also used to run back from the office, and I had joggers in my bag.
Could have
Don't
put
do that anymore.
Joggy
No.
bottoms on.
Could have had joggy
Got
bottoms
old man
myself.
knees, can't do it anymore.
Yeah, got injured, so don't do that. And now I'm
Ben?
wet. Yeah, what's up?
Do you have a sponsor for this week's podcast?
Wow, rude, but yes, I do. I was getting to it.
I know you were. I just thought, let's do it now.
She's fed up with me talking about jogging bottoms,
Yeah.
apparently.
I'm in a foul mood
You've not
today.
found
That's
out what,
fine.
what I've been up to.
Well,
for
Peter,
the last
what
few
have you
days,
been
but
up to?
Just, not much really. Just unpacking boxes. So no, nothing interesting.
Any jogging bottoms
what I
come out of
thought.
those? Boxes?
I had them with me, because they're my comfies, as I call them.
That's
I
nice.
put my comfies on when I get home from work, so I had them in my suitcase rather than in a box taped up. So
Okay.
I was never without them.
My mum refers to comfies as her fat pants.
I've had them referred to as civvies as well.
Yeah.
Civvies,
She
yeah.
get home, she's like, put your fat pants on, time to sit on the sofa.
Fat pants, that's a good one.
She loves it.
Before Ashton explodes, I'll talk about this week's
Yes, if
sponsor.
you could.
Each and every week, we're sponsored by a very real video game adjacent sponsor. Is he here?
No, he wasn't here when we did After Dark either.
He didn't want to make the journey into work this morning. It's too wet. So he's probably at home, relaxing, chillaxing.
Dead Island 2 The Spider, who has not graced us with their presence again this week.
The longer they're away, the more worried we'll become. I think at some point, one of us will have to just sneak in a new spider and not tell the other two.
Yes, bring in a brand new spider.
I've got
Yeah.
a spindly spider at home in my
Have
lounge.
you?
I might bring it in a box, in a matchbox.
You should.
Just let it loose in here.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. We're sponsored by a very real video game adjacent sponsor. I have the ad read right here. This week, I'm thrilled to announce that Bandai Namco have partnered with the School Science Company.
Yeah.
That's a real one, right?
Okay.
In order to bring a new educational kit into schools for children to learn about how things work and how science goes. And it's a new science set that you can set up in the classroom where you have control over the little lives in front of you based on the decisions you make, like whether or not you feed them and whatever else.
Whether you hold your breath.
Right.
Whatever else it is that
Yeah.
you do with these things. It's called the Dark Pictures Antilogy, and it's available right now for schools. Only in schools, though.
Okay.
Okay.
And you see the sort of from the side
Do you
on.
make decisions for them?
Yeah,
Like flood one tunnel and let's see what happens?
Exactly. No food,
No food?
no oxygen, sunlight.
extra leaf.
Do they need sunlight? I suppose they don't. Extra leaf.
Yeah, I don't think they
Do
need
ants
sunlight.
need sunlight?
Well, they need
Don't
sunlight
know.
for like the things they eat, but I assume
true.
they don't actually need
I'll
sunlight.
tell you who would know.
Who would
Dr. Reynolds, Dr. Ant Hill.
Dr. Ant Hill.
Anthony
Ant
Hill.
Hill would definitely know. The RRP is $49.99,
Right.
and it's available right now.
Do schools have to pay for it?
Yes.
Or does it get paid for by the taxpayer?
Is it subsidised?
That's it's a good question. I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay, thank you if you could.
But you can pay for it with real money, not tax money.
But only if you're at school.
But only if you're a school. This is strictly school only stuff.
You have
okay.
to prove that you're a school.
Yeah.
when
Like how
you buy it.
when you go on delivery, they say, we will not deliver to a school.
Yeah, why do they do that?
And now it's like, we will only deliver to a school.
Exactly. That's it. Dark Pictures Anthology. The new one is out. It's not out. It's not real, unfortunately. Dark Pictures Anthology is not real. You can just go play with ants wherever ants are sold.
Wherever you find them. Yeah.
So go and enjoy that. No, we're not sponsored by Dark Pictures and Hilogy. We're sponsored by wonderful patrons over at patreon.com/Team TripleJump, where for as little as $1 per month, you could submit questions to this podcast. And what's up?
We're a
both
bit
did
in
the same
sync then.
thing,
It's a
yeah.
bit weird.
And also get access to other tiers as well. Lots of other amazing rewards. Thank you so much for your consideration. We've got a question. Peter's going to read it.
It's from Janet Wicks, who says, "Hey, Abap, what's your favourite controller of all time, and which one do you hate the most?" Good question, Janet.
Good question, Janet.
Can't believe we've not covered this before on the podcast. I think the best controller is the DualSense controller. It's haptic. It feels. It has feelings.
Yeah.
And it just does stuff.
Is the DualSense the PlayStation 5 controller?
Yeah. I like
the
the triggers.
DualShock is the fourth.
Yeah. I like the triggers. I like the special vibrations. All of it. It's great. It's a really good controller. It feels good in the hand. I have been playing a lot of PS2. Well, I say a lot of. I've not played much gaming at all, but what I have done is played on my PS2 because I unpacked it from a box and went, oh yeah. And wow, holding one of those controllers now is weird. They're all sort of, it's an official controller, but it's like hollow. It kind of creaks when you sort of squeeze it too much or move it around. It's not heavy and weighty. They're rubbish in hindsight. It seemed fine at the time, but it really makes the DualSense seem even better now when you hold a really old one.
I like the personality you developed when you talked about the DualSense.
Yeah, the DualSense. It's just, I think the word sense just
Yeah.
makes me speak in a bit more of a sensitive manner.
Yeah.
Maybe you say your favourites now, and then we can do worst, least favourites. Worst, least favourites.
Worst,
Yeah,
least
favourites.
favourites.
Okay.
Controversial opinion, but I actually prefer the DualShock controller, mainly because I think sometimes a PlayStation 5 controller gives me hand cramp. It hurts my fingies. I think it's too big for my hands. That and the current Xbox controllers. I've got one recently, and when I've used it for too long, I get hand cramp and have to click all my fingers because it's too big. So I think that the PlayStation 4 controller was the perfect size for my lady hands. But I do like a lot of the features on the DualSense, and I like how you can customize the Xbox controllers however you want them to look. However, they make my hands hurt. So I like the DualShock because nice and small and feels nice in hands.
I'll tell you what I don't like about the DualSense is the fact that it tells me every time I turn my PS5 on to update it. And the reason it tells me every time is because I always say no.
Refuse to
Have
do
you
it.
And I've been
considered
saying-
updating it?
No, I haven't. No.
Does that with the
Because-
one in the office as well, and I'm always like, later.
Well, yeah, it's like if I'm turning on my console, that means I want to play games right now. That's the mindset I'm in. Time to play games. And if the first thing I'm greeted by is, do you want to get up off the sofa, plug your controller into a cable, and then sit and watch a progress bar? I'm like, if you're giving me the option to say no, I'm going to say no, because the other option to doing that is to play games, sit and watch that or play games right now.
I keep doing that as well because I don't want to get out of my blanket nest that I've just put myself in, and I've looked up at the TV and it says update your controller. I'm like, I'm not getting out of this. It's too cold out there. I'm going to stay in my nest and I'm just going to play with my out of date controller.
I wish when I pressed switch off, it would flag up a quick thing saying, by the way, do you want to
update
take
your
this
controller?
opportunity to update your controller? And I would say, yes,
I'd say
I
no,
do.
I'm not
Are you
getting
sure
out.
you would do that? Or would it be another opportunity to say no? no.
Will I be getting up at that point anyway? Because generally I turn my console off when I'm going to bed or something. So at that point, I would maybe just shove it in rest. I don't know if it can update during rest mode.
Well, this is also sometimes when I'm playing with one controller, the other one's plugged in to the PlayStation 5. Why can't I play my game and you update my controller at the same time?
That would be good.
My other one's over here now. I'm using it, but next time I use that one, why did you just update it while it's plugged in?
Silly. It's very important to update your controller. What if someone hacks into it?
But why does it need to be updated?
What are they going to do?
What if
Take control of my game?
Yeah.
What if
Talk
someone
to
hacks
me
into
through
it?
the speed.
Finish the mission.
They
Make
could just
the triggers not pullable at all.
a little 11-year-old talking to you out of your controller, just heckling you like a gun from Borderlands.
Yeah.
That was rubbish. You're terrible.
Get good.
I don't understand why it has to be done over a cable, though. Why can't it not just be done wirelessly?
I don't even understand what it needs to do. It still works, but don't update it.
And that's why it's your favorite controller, right?
No.
Second, at least,
not
at
my
least
favorite.
behind the DualShock.
The DualShock is better.
I know. I'm pulling your leg,
I know.
Ashton.
Oh.
Well, I thought we weren't talking about our least favorites yet.
It's not my least favorite.
No, it's not.
Okay, you just don't like it as much as the DualShock 4.
No, it hurts my hands. What's your favorite?
For me, it would either be the DualShock 4, just because I've found that a very comfortable controller to hold. And I have no real issue with the DualSense. I think it's a bit of a marvel. It's got a lot of stuff in it that's very cool. But I do kind of tune a lot of it out, like the triggers and stuff. So
do the games that PlayStation make. They ignore half the controls on the controller.
They do sometimes, yeah. So for me, it was probably the DualShock 4. I've largely played PlayStation my entire life, so my experience with controllers is somewhat limited, and we'll talk about obviously the least favorite controllers in a moment, and there are some obvious answers, but having personally not actually used those controllers, I can't really say those as my least favorite controllers. I'm also a big fan of the Series S/X controller, which I've sort of had to get used to when I got a Series S. Wasn't a huge fan of the D-pad because I found that when I was trying to navigate things, it's hard to put into words because obviously it's a very precise controller, but I didn't feel like I had the nuance over, or I was more used to the PlayStation controller. Yeah, because it's all attached. So like I was finding that when I was pressing left or right, it was going diagonally, like down and stuff like that. Because it's not separate buttons, which is what I'm used to. But I do really like that controller, and so I suppose that's one of my favorites as well. I think one of my favorite controllers. What about which one do you hate the most, though?
I mean, I've written down 3 and I've thought of a 4th one, but the 4th one is one that seems maybe one of the more obvious answers, but I actually would defend it a little bit, which is the original Xbox controller, which was massive. Remember, it was like, a huge thing. Yeah, and when it first came out, everyone was like, what the hell is this? But I just got used to it, and eventually it was, it wasn't one of my favorites of all time, but it was just okay. It was, it seemed strange and way too big when it was first revealed, but it was fine. So that might be one that springs to mind for a lot of people, but I would say not actually that bad. But ones that I do hate, you can forgive it for being really, really old, but the NES is just a rectangle and hurts after 5 minutes. So don't like that. I low key don't like the GameCube controller.
Right.
I think it like looks weird. Why are the thumbsticks different? Why?
I think you mean the C stick.
Sorry, yes, I do. Why are they different? Why are even the face buttons just strangely different shapes and colors? Like, it just seems like someone only had a few like spare bits of other controllers left and had to throw something together.
It's whimsical. It's quirky.
Isn't it? It's so Nintendo. As is the N64 controller, which, again, I got used to back in the days when I used to play a lot of N64 at my friend's house. And so, in that sense, I suppose it was fine, because eventually I was like, yeah, this is okay. But really, it's not, is it? It's got 3 handles. You have to, like, choose which 2 things you want to hold. It's got a thumbstick in the middle. It's got sort of a weird combination of buttons. It's just strange. So I don't know. I mean, overall, if I don't make allowances for its age, I would say the NES controller is the worst, because it just is a rectangle that hurts your hand, but maybe the GameCube I dislike more than the N64 just because it's stupid for the sake of it.
It's such a strange one because I feel that that's a controversial opinion.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I completely agree. And I understand that people would get accustomed to such a controller, but using one is so alien.
Yeah.
It's so bizarre and unlike any other controller. And it's so iconic as well. But I feel like people would defend it to the death, and I do not know why.
Yeah.
Apart from nostalgia and love for it, of course.
It is because it partly doesn't have quite the same kind of universal. You could pick up a Steam Deck controller and probably get by, like, with never having used one before. But to pick up a GameCube controller, yeah, it's the right shape. It's not like an N64 or a Wiimote or something. It's still, you hold it on both sides, face buttons, thumbsticks, but the names of the buttons seem strange. The shape of it, yeah, it's all just. It looks like it's more has more in common with other controllers than it really does, I think. And then the moment you get one in your hand, if you're not a regular GameCube player, then you're like, what the hell's going on?
Speaking of the Steam Deck, that's my least, the Steam controller, that's my least favourite.
Well, I've never used one, but I just assumed that it's...
Bit of a niche one, but I hate it. Can't stand it. My boyfriend had one when we first started playing games together, and I refused to use it. I'd rather play...
about it?
I just don't like the fact it doesn't have thumbsticks. It has indented touch pads
things, yeah,
for the controls. It also does weird vibrations when you use those, and I didn't like them. They freaked me out. I just think that it just doesn't make sense. Why do you need to have touch pads? I know that obviously it's meant to be used with like PCs in general, but you can use a mouse with a thumbstick. I don't need these touch pads. I just really didn't like them, and I couldn't get on with it, and I just couldn't figure it out. In most games, it was just difficult to work with. So I'd refuse to play with it. I'd make him play with it, and I'd play with the wired-in Xbox controller that had wires frayed out of it. But I was like, I'm not playing that. I'm not playing with that stupid controller. I hate it. I just don't like it. I have a real hate for it. Whenever I see it in a drawer, I'm always like, oh, I hate that controller.
I forgot it had the thumb
that
pads.
guy.
Maybe I wouldn't find it as easy to pick up.
No, it's just a weird learning curve of going from the thumbsticks of literally every other controller in existence to the touchpads, because they're also they're indented into the controller. They're like a little bowl, so you're kind of having to move further if you're going all the way to the left or the right. I just don't like it. I just think it's a silly controller.
Fair enough. My least favorite controller is probably the launch PS3 controller, the 6-axis controller, which didn't have any vibration in it because Sony decided that vibration was no longer the future. So they gutted that out, and they gave you the cheapest, lightest feeling controller I have ever used. The PS3 controller was already a last-minute revision because they were going to do the banana controller.
Yeah. Which would have been worse.
Would have been worse, yeah. It feels like the DualShock 4 is actually sort of a middle ground because that's got quite long prongs on either side, but not quite as long as the banana. And so it was basically just a DualShock 2 from the PS2, but they took out the vibration and made it wireless. And yes, it did have tilt functionality, and no, it didn't work perfectly, but then they just decided actually no vibration, people do want that, and then they released the DualShock 3, which is this pretty standard PS3 controller most people will have used, but the original one was so light it just felt cheap and rubbish and weird, and there was no vibration for the first however many years of the PS3 being out. No games had vibration support, which was really bizarre. So that is probably my least favorite one.
When I look, just literally clap eyes on an original launch PS1 controller before it had thumbsticks, the level of nostalgia it fills my brain with. All I have to do is put my eyes on one and I can feel the chemicals in my brain being released.
Play Spyro.
Yeah, because that was the first controller I ever used. I played loads of multiplayer with my siblings and stuff using one of those, and then we eventually got analog ones, and it's okay, yeah, they're fine, and they still have a bit of a throwback, but yeah, seeing one of the really old ones is hell yes. I like those.
Amazing. Well, it's time to move on to a section we've never done before. It's called What We Playin.
Ooh. Oh, no.
No, you don't do that
No,
yet.
you don't,
Not yet.
Peter.
It's What We Playin time. Time to talk about what we've been playing. Peter, what have you been playing?
Well, I mentioned earlier I've been playing some PS2, and you mentioned a minute ago play Spyro. Play Spyro is the words you used.
Okay.
I've been playing Spyro 1 and Spyro 2, trying to work out if and what and how I can do another sort of challenge stream. We were talking about it recently, weren't we? That maybe we could this year, one or more of us do a few sort of interesting streams, perhaps around Christmas or something. So was it a year ago or 2 years ago? I did Spyro 1 without breathing fire. And there was one place where I had to breathe fire, even though I had video evidence of there being a way to do it without breathing fire, but it was like a 1 in 1,000 sort of glitchy jump. So I was like, okay, can I do that again this year? But like get some practice in and do that. So I was practicing on that a little bit. That was on the Reignited trilogy, to be fair. Then I moved over to the PS1 version of the same game, Spyro 1, because there was a different way to get up the same ledge, which is also very, very difficult. So I've been practicing that as well. And I've sort of decided maybe it would still take me like 100 tries. So now I'm trying to, or I'm sort of exploring whether I can do Spyro 2 without gliding at all in the game.
Okay. What's the verdict so far?
So far, yes, but I'm only like...
Isn't there a
halfway
whole level
through.
where you have to like glide jump off things, or is that a different one of the
Might be the
games?
third one.
With the big like ramps.
Ooh.
In Spyro 1 there is.
Oh,
but,
maybe I'm thinking of Spyro 1.
But you're like supercharging,
Yeah.
so you don't have to glide necessarily.
I hated that level.
Yeah.
Is that the wood
Me
one?
too. I made Ben do that.
Oh, there's two. Yeah, there's treetops, which is a superchargy one, and then there's high caves as well.
High
trying to
Caves
find
was
the
the one
collectibles
I
and
made.
that.
I made my
Yeah.
boyfriend do that one. I'm not doing this. It's too hard.
So yeah, so far I can. So like, it's with the caveat of like, well, I can use like interesting glitches and out of bounds things to like get around places. And the good thing is in Spyro 2, on the PS1 version, there is a glitchy double jump.
Whoa.
2/3 of a triple jump that you can do that was unintentional, and they removed it in the Reignited trilogy because it shouldn't have been in there. But it allows you to just get like out of the levels and stuff. And so I'm hopeful I might be able to do it. Not promising that that's what I'll be doing this year, but I may or may not be doing Spyro 2 without gliding. So I played a little bit of those games this week, but I've not had a lot of time to game this week at all. And then hopefully this weekend I'll be able to start God of War. So yeah, that's what I've been up to.
Very exciting.
Ashton, what have you been playing?
I have played a little bit of Urb's Sims in the City on the GameCube, well, an emulator version of that. I was seeing my boyfriend at the weekend, and he was like, "I think you'll really like this game." Turns out he was right. I did like it, and I want to play more, but I can't.
I was going to say with the rubbish controller, but if you emulated it,
we emulated
you didn't have
it.
to
I was
use
using
that.
a PlayStation 5 controller. I had a great time. Some of the game in that game, mini games are just rubbish and annoying. You have to like keep spamming X to like level up your abilities and stuff. But I was having a great time. I was like level 150 or 170 in like star power, and MB was only like 70. And he was like, "I can't get into any of these rooms." And I was like, "Just catch up, just get good." So I played quite a lot of that over the weekend. And then I'm about 20 hours into God of War. Man, this game's really good. I love the story of it so far. I'm so interested. Someone was saying that they thought that it was a bit like slow going and took a long time to get to where it was going. And people were saying that it takes like 10 hours to get into the story, which I personally don't think is true, because it kind of like kicks off pretty much straight away. And I really have enjoyed pretty much all of it so far. The climbing is a little bit slow, which is kind of annoying, because there's at one point where you have to climb a big area that takes quite a while because the climbing can feel quite sluggish. And also, I want to preface this by saying I do really like this game, and I do think it is a proper contender for Game of the Year. However, I think this is the first time since playing a game that is kind of like the PS5 era, where it feels like the game was built with PlayStation 4 in mind and scaled up for PlayStation 5. I think that the graphics are still really good, and you can definitely tell that like they've upgraded the graphics to PlayStation 5. But a couple of times I've been really excited to go into like populated areas and have NPCs just kind of loitering around because we've gone to like little towns or whatever. And nearly every single time that I've encountered what's the word? Popular?
Settlement or something.
A settlement, yeah, or something. The NPCs are given a reason not to be there, and it's empty. Which I kind of feel like they're like, well, if we render too many little dudes, we won't be able to run it as well on the PlayStation 4. So it's kind of like just cut out. And there was one point where I could see a settlement of people, and I wasn't allowed to go down there during the mission I was doing. I had to just look at it from above. And even then, they were just kind of standing in one spot and not moving. And I just kind of feel a little bit disappointed by that so far. But like I say, this game apparently is 50 hours long, and I'm 20 hours into the game. So there might be the occasion where I do visit towns that have NPCs dotted around, but so far hasn't felt like I've really been given that opportunity. There was maybe one time in the game so far where there's been like off kind of screen or not directly into what I'm doing, characters doing stuff and like making voice lines and stuff. But I do think that this game is really good, and I do think that everyone should play it. If you enjoyed 2018, this is just like a direct continuation, and it definitely feels like more of the same game, and that's really good. There's new mechanics, there's new weapons. I really like some of the other stuff. I don't want to spoil it in terms of the story, but you get quite a lot of ability to upgrade Atreus. And the voice lines are really good. And I don't think that NPCs are chatting too much. That was also another criticism that I've seen leveled at it, is that NPC chatter is too constant.
They give like puzzle solutions really quickly.
But I don't think that they do all the time. I've seen that. There's been a couple times where like I've known what I need to do, but I'm just faffing around opening chests and stuff. But most of the time, the only time that they give me help is when I'm actually genuinely confused about what I'm supposed to be doing. Right. But that's quite useful. And I just like the way that they're always talking, like constantly having discussions about things. At one point, Atreus gets told off for swearing, and it makes me laugh because like Kratos is just being a dad. And he's like, do you really think it's suitable to be saying swear words? And I'm like, my God, he's such a dad. What's going on? And it's just, I just like it. They keep been making fun of me for going off and getting chests. And I'm always a bit sad. They're like, oh, what's Kratos doing? And they're like, oh, he just really likes loot. And I'm like, shut up. I just want to get this chest, all right? But yeah, I think it's really good. And I'm excited to keep playing it. Hopefully, I'm probably going to finish it by next week because I haven't got any plans for this weekend except play God of War. So,
nice.
So yeah.
Exciting. Excellent.
You've been playing some God of War as well, haven't you?
I have indeed, yes. Before that, though, I remembered that the Airbnb I was staying in when I was on holiday had a PS2.
Yes, it did, didn't it?
So I played, I took my copy of SmackDown Here Comes the Pain with me because I thought it would be funny. And it wasn't. But I took it anyway. I put it in my very small Ryanair luggage, which was not what you would normally associate with small luggage, which would be a small suitcase. It's literally a backpack.
Yeah.
And then when we got on the plane, they were like, put stuff in the overhead lockers.
Yeah.
So they just don't care.
We did the same thing as we were like, we only took really small bags, and then we put a cabin bag in because we were like going for a week and a bit. And we're like, we've not got enough room in our backpacks. And we got on the plane, and everyone just had like handheld suitcases. They don't and I was like, are you joking?
Crap.
I've paid 40 quid to get in the bloody hold.
Yeah, they don't get. You have to pay for the overhead luggage storage, and then they just didn't care. Everyone just put their stuff up there. So that was great. Anyway, I dedicated some of my very limited bag space to SmackDown Here Comes the Pain. I played a little bit of that, but not a lot because I was on holiday. They also had a stack of PS2 games. Most of them horrible movie tie-in.
Yeah,
games.
I can imagine.
In Latvian, I reckon.
No, they were all in English, actually.
Okay.
All English copies. And
that's a shame.
I played a little bit of, what was it? It was Pirates of the Caribbean, Legend of Jack Sparrow or something.
Right.
I don't think it was movie tie-in related. It was just, it had their likenesses and sort of sound alike.
The knockoffs.
Yeah, so.
Do some Jackanisms.
No Jackanisms. No Jackanisms. I didn't play it very long. It was crap. So then I just went out and explored the city. So
I will just say before you move on to God of War and what else you've been playing, I appreciate that this year, this week, I've been playing Spyro 1 and 2. Ashton's been playing Herbs, and you've been playing SmackDown Here Comes the
Yes, it is 2004.
What year is this?
And last week we all complained about how there was too many brand new games coming
And we don't
out,
have
and we
time.
all sat through and didn't play the most recent releases. But
In my defense, I didn't have access to my console. So there we are. Anyway, yes, God of War is the main thing I've been playing. I had a couple of days off the other side of coming back from holiday, and I intended to play as much God of War as possible because I went away on holiday the day it came out. So didn't get the chance to play it before I went away. And I'm maybe 16 hours into it now. I heard that it could be completed in about 25 hours if you golden path it, i.e. not do any of the side stuff. And I've got to say, it's a phenomenal game. Just get that out of the way. My heart does sink every time I get to an area and they're like, here's a boat, here's a huge place to sail around and all these shores to hop off the boat and all these side things and challenges and a couple of little questies, and I do them all, but begrudgingly. Like I've got to help this lady find her orb, I suppose. Haven't I? I've got to go find the orb, I suppose. I feel like the game would be just as good if they got rid of that stuff and it was just you are in an area to do the story stuff and then you move on. I feel like it would have been just as excellent. The side stuff is inoffensive and it does actually contain some really good character moments and sort of little stories off to the side, but then it is also accompanied by the usual guff that you would expect. Like, here's a chest, but you've got to throw your axe in a certain way to get access to the chest. But how are you going to do it? Oh, you have to stand on this pixel? Well, you're going to have to YouTube a video of that to find out the exact spot you need to stand in because it's a bit esoteric. I don't dislike it, but I would rather it not be there because I feel an overwhelming compulsion to do it whenever it's there. And I do kind of just want to get on with the story. And I feel like the side stuff that I have played that has trophies associated and are big sort of private character moments could easily have been rolled into the main story and just sort of made mandatory. But I think it's really, really good. There is one area I went to where there was a surprising lack of polish, which considering the rest of the game is so polished.
I think I know which area it is. There's one specific realm where I had like a bunch of screen tearing and like a bunch of issues just on one realm that then since I've left, I've not encountered even a little bit.
Well, I don't know that I had screen tearing, but I had like lines of dialogue were like stacking over each other, and there was just like a strange lack of attention to detail. Like that you would lift up a big flipping, what's it called, rock to get through an area, and you could see like the camera would show the fact that it was just clipping through the cliff face at the side and lifting up and then clipping back down, like it didn't fit snugly, and it could have been hidden by a different camera angle, but it showed the whole thing and it just looked a bit sloppy, and that was kind of weird. I know it was developed during COVID and stuff, but the rest of the game is so pristine that I found that genuinely quite shocking. But I'm really, really liking this game. I'm just going to talk about the things that are annoying me really, because I think it is incredible, but I feel like there's a lot of menus. Especially the armor equipping and amulets runes and it's I get lost in it so easily. It looks very samey and I'm not a huge fan of all that stuff. I don't mind the fact that there's armor and all this stuff, but I'm not a huge fan of the menus.
There is a lot of stats and a lot of things you have to be aware of. And I'm just acutely aware that I've not got the optimum build. I have literally no idea which one I've even got equipped at this point.
There was more than enough of that for me in the first game,
there's
to be
more.
honest.
There is so much.
Well, yeah, I've heard that there's a lot more to go at in this one. But yeah, like even in the first game, I was like, this is more than I require for my character who is known for just punching his way through or axing his way through monsters. You know, I don't need this nuance.
Yeah. I really like the story. I also like the fact that they all talk to each other all the time because they're not just talking about crap. Like they are talking about Norse mythology and how it pertains to the characters who are present.
They talk quite a lot about Kratos' life and the old games.
They refer a lot to the old games.
They made
PlayStation All Stars.
Yeah, they made All Stars canon.
No, I haven't. I'm not aware of that. I saw the headline, but it's
literally just a little bit of dialogue when I was like in one of the sleds, he says, "Didn't you used to fight in like some kind of arena against like rogues and princesses and stuff?" And Kratos is like, "We don't talk about that."
Oh,
People at first would say, and he says, and history's greatest musician as well.
Yes.
And people were saying, "Oh no, this is actually a Mortal Kombat reference because of Rain, who is Prince. He's based on Prince." But apparently it's been confirmed. I can't remember where or how, but basically they've said, no, this is actually a All-Stars reference.
They reference quite a lot of PlayStation in the game. There's like a set of poems that you can pick up that like reference a bunch of other games, just like that you kind of have to figure out. And I really like that. I picked up the first one and I was like, this is going to be my favorite thing to find. But I really like them.
Combat is fantastic. I will say that. I really, really like it. I am finding that I'm using the axe way more than the Blades of Chaos.
See, that's funny. I'm using the blades all the time. I'm rarely using the axe because I just like throwing my blade and just blowing people up.
To see, it becomes sort of like that. You have to develop a real muscle memory for tap, 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 pause. And now tap, tap, tap again. Yeah, there's lots of hold R1 and then hold R2. But if you hold L1 and R1, you could do a special move. And like there's lots of muscle memory. And I can't really, I feel like I've got that down for the axe, but not for the Blades of Chaos.
You can upgrade all of your skills. So the more you use a skill, the like better it gets. And once you unlock gold level, you can put an extra like stat into it. So if you do a certain move over and over again, you get to like add like damage or incendiary or like stun, and I like that. I do use the blades all the time. I think I've upgraded more of the blades skills than I have the axe, funnily enough.
Well,
hey, two different people, two different playstyles, guy.
I will advise though that people don't do what I did, which was go into the settings and enable or check the box that says like enhanced frame rate, and it's like where possible, and that's only supported. That's only for like high refresh rate monitors and like super swanky TVs. And so what it does if you don't have those is it basically plays at 30 FPS.
Cool.
So for the first like hour I was thinking, man, it kind of runs like crap. This is weird. And I sent my friend a message like, is it running a bit chunky? And he's like, no, like it's smooth for me. So I sent him a photo and he said, oh, uncheck that thing. I was like, okay. And then it was like, wow, this runs amazingly. Who would have thought that ticking the box that says enable enhanced frame rate would slow it down?
You would think it would just like make no difference, or if you have the TV you see it, and if you don't it just stays at 60. But
so yeah, beware of that. If it's running a bit crap, then maybe turn that setting off if you got it turned on. But I agree in that I would love to see this if it was unshackled by being a PS4 game as well. But these are the times that we live in, and we all spent silly money on a PS5, even though all the flipping exclusives are on PS4 as well, but there we go. I think it's a phenomenal game. I'm really excited to play more. The prospect of it being 50 hours fills me with dread.
I think that's fully completed everything, picking everything up
right.
in a situation.
I do want to get the platinum if I can, but it's so good. Why does every game have to be so big?
Yeah.
Why do they all have to be so big? It's like, I think Push Square described it as like Sony at their most pomp. And it's like, I get it. This is where all the budget goes. This is where all the money goes, and that's why it's so fine-tuned and why it's so hefty. But it could be 15 hours long. Can you imagine if it was 15 hours long?
Well, we're going to get to Game of the Year announcement.
I'd spend the same amount of money.
Yeah.
I'd spend the same money to get a 15-hour God of War game that was this polished.
It's my issue with the whole industry at the moment, to be honest, that those are all the best games, and I just don't have time. I barely have time for one of them at any given moment, but yeah.
Anyway, that's what I played. Let's move on to question. No. Let's not move on. We are actually going to move on to a brand new section. I suppose we should give a bit of a backstory here because we are planning on rolling this section out with more ferocity in the new year.
Yeah.
Quip Scope will still exist for now, but going forward, we'll be rolling the Quip Scopes, or what was Quip Scopes, into our brand new section, Review Corner. The first of which is right now.
Oh.
James Jenkins.
Hello.
Welcome to the Review Corner. What do you make of it? Isn't it spacious?
It's nice. It's lovely. What a beautiful corner you've made.
Help yourself to a drink from the bar. Don't actually, because it's office hours, so
free drinks?
that would be unprofessional. But this is the brand new
It's too
section
late.
called. Put it down.
Oh.
This is the brand new section that we're doing in the podcast called Review Corner, where games would traditionally be featured on a standalone Quipscope. We're starting to roll them in here. This week, you're going to be talking to me about Pentiment, which is just released on Game Pass and has been getting really good reviews.
Yeah.
It sort of caught many people's eyes. Where was it first shown off? Was it like a Xbox showcase?
Say it was probably an Xbox showcase or maybe like a one of the Summer Games
thingies?
Fest.
Okay.
Yeah, it was some sort of show that it was shown off initially,
Right.
and very eye catching for the art style, the commitment to the old school art style. But so basically Pentiment. I mean, it's been out since like November 15th, I believe. So just this week. It's essentially a historical narrative adventure. It's very it sort of portrays as like a medieval murder mystery, essentially.
Okay.
And with a lot of point and click sort of, Monkey Island style vibes to it in terms of how it controls, and a lot of branching choices with how the story unfolds as well. So like very sort of RPG-esque in that way, although you don't necessarily have, your typical RPG battles or anything like that.
Right.
So obviously the art style very unique, very sort of old fashioned. I did have to look up the official sort of term. So it's based on like the illuminated manuscripts that you get in old sort of scribed like books and stuff that used to be done in abbeys.
So that's
by
what
monks.
it's called, illuminated manuscripts.
That's the style, of those books and those sort of pieces of art that are in those those books. So it's quite interesting. It's very committed to the bit, shall we say.
And it's developed by Obsidian, isn't it?
Of course, yes.
So it wouldn't have been. I said it was maybe featured at a Bethesda conference. I think obviously there's a lot of crossover in their past with New Vegas and stuff, but that was a mistake on my part.
Well,
It's
they're
Obsidian.
all owned by the same guys again now, anyway.
They are. It's all come full circle. So this is on Game Pass, and
Indeed.
How does it play?
Well, it basically plays a bit like a visual novel with / point and click adventure game, really.
Okay.
It's very narrative heavy. It's quite a slow burn at the start because it's I mean, and I don't say that necessarily as a bad point. That's kind of the vibe that it's going for. So I've heard it's sort of like 15-20 hours on, but it's basically you start up, you're playing as Andreas Mahler, an artist in a Bavarian town of Tassing.
Okay.
It's set in the 16th century, and you're just aside from a very strange dream sequence at the start where you're kind of dealing with weird characters in this court of like your own inner monologue. It's you sort of wake up and then you're just chilling out. You're wandering about, on a 2D plane, talking to various different people. I should mention if you're watching this on the YouTube video feed, then it's. You probably will have noticed that there's a big head mode because I switched it on almost immediately. So that's
okay.
nice.
So you're playing with big head mode on.
Yeah, it's weird that they've given that such a like there are a range of there's a scale from super big to it's regular. It's very strange.
Okay.
This is obviously a very important thing to mention.
Yeah, of course, it's a core tenet of the game.
Yeah, but essentially it's you're making conversation with the different people, different townsfolk in the in this town. You're in terms of like the story, you are a sort of traveling artist on your what do they call it? Your wonder years, like your gap year.
Your gap year.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Where sort of artists are encouraged to go out and just work on a craft in different places. So you have a in terms of like your traditional RPG things that you might expect, you have a few different backgrounds that you can choose, like so where you grew up / studied initially, so like Italy or France, and that affects different things. All these backgrounds will affect different like choices that will pop up that otherwise wouldn't be available in certain conversations and situations. So your academic background as well. I chose to be like a rapscallion because I thought that was fun, but also a very educated one because I know Latin and medicine. So a weird sort of mix. And
so is it a bit sort of Disco Elysium-esque in terms of all of your stats and skills? It's changing how you play.
That's basically the extent of your own skills. Really, it's not quite as in depth as the likes of Disco Elysium. Right. So you have that sort of initial bit in the first, half an hour to an hour where they're introduced sort of naturally during different conversations, and then. Pardon me, and then on you go really to just go about your regular medieval working day. You head on up to you meet a nice, lovely nobleman who's, well, I say lovely, seems a bit shifty, but seems very friendly with you. Not very popular with the rest of the town, and so that's when it kind of. That's the sort of the seeds of doubt being placed in there, but. And then you carry on and do your regular stuff and meet different characters up at the abbey where you're working, the various different monks, and I should say it does seem very historically accurate as well, or at least as much as it can be in this sort of situation. There was mention of Sir Martin Luther, who was basically like the person that kind of kickstarted like a big revolution in the church and like kickstarted Protestantism. And a bunch of other things I had no idea about the context, but they were mentioned anyway, and it was nice. Yeah, and it just sort of goes on from there, really. And then, as I said, bit of a slow burn. I played about 3 hours and, 2 to 3 hours. Just about got to the point where there was the murder, what happens.
Okay.
And that's when things seem to get interesting. So, like I say, it takes a little bit of time to get into the core sort of conceit of the game, but at the same time, I feel like that's kind of excusable because it's a bit more sort of soap, and the whole idea is to get to know all these different characters, and in that sort of thing. I mean, you are essentially reading a sort of novel in that respect. So.
Yeah. So is it like, are you enjoying it? Is it fun? Would you say?
I say it's definitely I think it's pretty fun. Like in terms of the story itself. I mean, if you obviously, given the type of game it is, if you're expecting some like, balls to the wall action adventure, it's not that. It is very much a sort of quite a more niche, almost a passion project. I've seen it described as like, it's, they wouldn't have got it off the ground if they didn't have a thing like a platform like Game Pass to pitch it for. So, it's nice to see that there. But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's the story has just opened up to that point now where you're starting to be that sort of medieval like detective almost, and because you have a bit more freedom, being like essentially a roaming freelance artist, it's a bit. But one that stayed in the town a while, so you're friendly with some people. Okay. Other people you have a bit of a history with, and. Yeah, it gives you a little bit more freedom while still being like quite a grounded, believable setting. It's not, there aren't any, at least not yet anyway, there aren't any sort of crazy supernatural things apart from potentially one where you're like, oh, did I see a ghost? That was strange. What's going on there?
Right.
That's very much, it feels like you've probably seen someone who's pretending to be, but
trying to hide.
Yeah, there's but overall, really intriguing story. So if you're into like the more sort of point and click, more sort of a slow burn narrative sort of things, the dialogue's quite fun. It's sometimes it can be a little bit too like. I'd say it's both good and bad. It almost feels like a believable sort of conversational sort of thing where you just stop off, you see some people, you're like, oh, hello, Mrs. whatever her face. Oh, you're going to the bakery again? Oh, how are the kids? How are you doing?
It's not really that much escapism, but it also kind of is because it's medieval Europe, but with a cool art style as well.
Yeah, and the fact that, obviously the art style can't go, praised enough. I'm sort of a big fan of how they've done that there, and committed to the style as well, even with the menus. Is very nice. So it's a lot of fun if you're interested in quite an intriguing story in a weird setting that we don't often see.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also you get various different options to like change the story. It does do that classic sort of thing of you make a certain choice if you say piss someone off, and they're like, oh, Steve will remember this.
Oh no!
But there
Steve.
I know it's not me. You don't want to piss off Steve, whatever his name was. There are different sort of elements to that though. So you could like say something that somebody approves of, and do that 2 or 3 times, and then annoy them once, and they're still kind of like on your side. It sort of balances out.
Okay.
But yeah.
Well, Pentiment available now on Game Pass,
Absolutely.
and presumably available for purchase on Xbox as well. If you don't
Indeed.
have Game Pass, but why don't you have Game Pass if you don't have an Xbox?
What are you doing at this day, in this day and age? Come on.
Ridiculous.
It is also available on Windows as well. So
Oh,
so
fantastic.
it should be on Game Pass on both, I believe. But yeah.
There we are. Go check it out right now. James, I'm going to need you to vacate the review corner because we need to get back to the rest of the podcast.
Can I take this drink with me?
Yes, you can.
I'm going to take a few
Get out of the
drinks.
review corner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just
Bye, James.
give me a hand with that. Yeah.
Bye, James. Bye. And there we go.
Wasn't that nice? Wasn't it?
corner.
Lovely.
Yeah.
How exciting. Thank you, James. That's all about Pentiment there. If you watch the video version of the podcast, you will have seen footage of it as you would with a normal Quipscope, but it's now in the podcast as well.
Wow.
Question 2.
Comes from Bartek Kubica. Babson! Inspired by Ben's recent statement about The Last of Us Part 1, I have a question. Do you have a game that hit you harder the second time you played it? I don't mean when game confronts nostalgia. I am talking about the pure emotional charge and different view. I know many people, after finishing God of War second time, this time as parents, changed the perception of this game. I finished Silent Hill 2 yesterday. Though I knew the game and endings, this time in my 30s, the whole game was less scary, but very much sadder. Sniff, sniff, Bartek. Thanks, Bartek.
Thank you, Bartek.
This to me feels like one of those questions where I'm definitely missing like 3 or 4 very good examples of games that I've played, and that answer the question very well. But I did think of one, which is Shadow of the Colossus, which it doesn't necessarily hit harder because if anything, the first time you play it, it's the actual reveal. It's like the punch that like hits you harder, and playing it a second time, you already know what's coming. But it hits different, I think, like knowing all the way through the game what you're doing rather than having a big reveal at the end. I guess you could say the same about many games with twists, your BioShocks and your KOTORs and things like that. Playing them a second time hits different, if not harder. So, that's the one I thought of. And I'm sure there are others that I can't think of right now. But Shadow of the Colossus.
I don't often play games a second time. I have the same opinion about movies in that why would I play that again when I've got so many new games to play? But the occasional time where I have felt drawn to a game when like a new one's coming out, when I played Horizon again before the second one came out, knowing what Aloy was going to find out and like what she was kind of getting herself into definitely made the kind of like optimism and like excitement of the beginning of the game like quite a lot more bitter, because I was like, oh honey, you got a big storm coming. And so definitely kind of knowing how she ends up, even at the end of the first game without having played the second one, I was a bit like, oh, you're gonna get real sad real quick. And also playing The Last of Us again. Oh, we're going to the floor
Just
with your
putting that on the
beverage.
floor out of the way. Sorry, I didn't realise that would be such a controversial
Okay.
move.
No,
You both just went silent. I was like, what happened? in
I
the
wasn't
room while
saying
was
anything anyway. I already was silent.
Well, yeah.
it just took me by surprise, that's all. And then playing The Last of Us Part 1, well, not Part 1, just the first one, again this year. Definitely at the end of it, I was like, oh, we're riding off into the sunset happy, but I don't know, Chief. It's not going to last that long. And that was a bit sad as well. But again, it's like that retrospective thing of like the happiness or like blind optimism of the beginning of the game, but that you also go into it with. And then suddenly you know that there's no point being optimistic if something bad is going to happen. But yeah, I think those two definitely. They might be the only games I've actually fully replayed, like that kind of game. But I don't know.
Yeah, definitely The Last of Us for me, as I talked about before. Getting to the bit where you're rescuing Ellie at the end and running through the hospital. When you get to that surgery room and there's the surgeon, I just wanted to kind of test the limits of what I could or couldn't do. Like I was running up to him and just sort of like bumping into him like, oh, what are you going to do, huh? And then I shot him in the dick like 3 times. I was like, I know what happens in the next game. Yeah. And for some reason,
May as well
it's
make
your
it
fault.
worthwhile.
Yeah, exactly. Might as well make this as justifiable.
This trauma is going to be bad.
He got shot in the dick 3 times.
My dad died when he got shot in the dick 3 times.
Yeah, exactly.
I've not replayed it since the second game came out, but I can imagine it is a whole different experience.
Yeah, if it's going to spur the events that take place in The Last of Us Part 2, then yeah, I did want to make it. Yeah, I want to make it worthwhile. So I killed him in the most horrific fashion possible.
I mean, The Last of Us Part 2 kind of does it within the game itself. Like, it tells you something.
Oh, I'd
and
love
then...
to replay The Last of Us Part 2 and it just shows Joel shooting him in the head.
It captures the gameplay from your save file from the first game.
That's not quite what I meant, but yeah, I just mean that like you know something from like Abby's perspective, and then you play as Ellie, and you're like, oh, I don't want to do that. I know what's going to happen, and I don't want to do this.
Yeah, it's not great. The other one is the Mass Effect trilogy. When I replayed that, older now than when I first played through 2 and 3, and obviously I was playing through 1 for the first time properly, and playing them all back to back, it made the big sacrifice or the big decision at the end of 3, which I understand why it was so controversial, but I don't really care. Like, it doesn't really bother me that much. So it all boiling down, it felt like a really difficult decision to make. Like I had to Google, like, oh, what does this mean again? Or what does this really mean? Or who will actually win if I do this? And you know, the sacrifice of your various friends and so on that you've been with since the first game. There was something special about playing them all back to back, but also, you know, I am now older than I was when I first played it through. So it hit a bit harder, I would say. And the futility of it all, the urgency of saving the universe. So that's mine.
I'm ready this time with my stack. Yeah. It's time now for Weird News.
Oh. It's weird news time for some weird video game news. Remember, you can submit weird video game news to us on social media platforms when we ask for them earlier on in the week. If you want to guarantee yourself a shout out, though, at the beginning of Weird News, you go to patreon.com/Team TripleJump and become a podcast producer at a certain tier. Here are the podcast producers for this week.
Big thank you to Nathan,
GY Goliath,
Nexus Polaris,
Walco,
Nicole Hansen,
Ellie Nicholas,
Erica Hutchinson,
Melody Elbonet,
Katie Garrett,
and Gabrielle Philippink.
Thank you,
podcast
Thank you,
producers.
What have we
And
got?
good morning, everyone.
I've got a weird news here that was sent to us on the Twitter thread by Robert Mansell at _Rob_Mansell_. I normally check.
Underscore.
Yeah, there's an underscore at the end. I normally check the Facebook as well to see if it was also sent there, but I forgot to do that this time. So sorry if someone sent the same story to Facebook. This is according to screenrant.com. Let me just reject cookies there.
Damn.
Gears of War creator hilariously demands Chris Pratt not star in movie.
Damn.
Gears of War creator Cliff.
He's so cool.
He is so cool. Gears of War. Imagine if they got him in Gears of War and he went, "It's a me, Marcus."
I was at the cinema this week, and the Super Mario trailer played before the movie I was watching, and they cut out the bit at the end where Chris Pratt spoke. Like he just arrived and he was like, "Oh," and then it just cut to the like Super Mario.
Do you reckon they get him to re-record it?
I don't know,
Yeah,
probably
maybe.
not, but
Just like Sonic.
yeah.
Gears of War creator Cliff Bleszinski hilariously demands Chris Pratt not star in the upcoming movie and franchise in development at Netflix. On the heels of the adaptation plans being announced, Gears of War creator Cliff Bleszinski has hilariously demanded Chris Pratt not star in the movie. The third-person shooter franchise primarily puts players in the shoes of Marcus Phoenix, a skilled soldier in the coalition of ordered governments, who, along with his team, try to protect humanity from the subterranean reptilian race dubbed the Locust Horde on the planet of Sarah. Multiple attempts at a Gears of War movie adaptation have floundered throughout the years, though the franchise is finally set to get its due in multiple new mediums, thanks to Netflix. Cliff Bleszinski recently took to Twitter to share his thoughts on Netflix in-development Gears of War franchise. Among his various posts regarding casting ideas for the projects, the video game creator hilariously demanded Chris Pratt not star in the movie. Check out the funny post below.
Is it really funny, Peter?
There's an embedded
What
tweet.
does he say?
And it's from @TheRealCliffyB.
Get ready to laugh, everyone.
Okay.
Oh, and keep Chris Pratt away from the Gears franchise, please. FFS.
He demands.
Hilarious.
He's demanded. That
but
was
he's
him
doing
demanding.
it hilariously.
Okay,
That's what's
hilariously.
important.
Hilarious, yeah.
There's then a subheading of a mid-article section called Why Audiences Have Turned on Chris Pratt. And it basically
There's
just
quite a few reasons.
talks about a whole number of reasons, including like his personal life and some of his opinions and the fact that he has done not a very good job at Mario's voice. And then it says who should star in Gears of War, and it suggests Dave Bautista or Carl Urban.
Yeah. Got to be Big Dave, though.
Yeah.
He loves Gears of War. He was in, what was the most recent one? 6? 5?
Yeah.
Can't remember.
There's a lot. Then it's
5.
all just guff after that. But basically, it was a tweet saying also no Chris Pratt, which is, I suppose slightly. In a way,
funny.
it's not weird. It's a very sensible thing to say as the creator of Gears of War.
Yeah.
But there you go.
It's a very
Demanded.
topical and relevant thing to say.
Yeah. Ashton.
I have some news. Submitted on Twitter by It's Hot in New Mexico or @Ariel_Kent. Maybe it's Ariel. Maybe you're the under the water mermaids, maybe.
Under the water mermaid.
Yes. I'm not one of those above water mermaids. It comes from Kotaku, written by Alyssa Mercante. TikTok is bimboifying Modern Warfare 2's Ghost, and veteran players are big mad. Call of Duty's elusive Special Forces operator is getting a lot of attention from horny TikTokers. The Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 space has been invaded by thirsty TikTokers who are going absolutely feral for Simon Ghost Riley, one of the game's main characters who's never revealed his face. The sequel dropped less than 2 weeks ago, but in that brief period of time, Ghost edits have racked up millions of views across hundreds of TikToks. And it talks about who plays him. That's not even that interesting. The videos include fan art of Ghost looking demure or otherwise sexualized, people reacting to Ghost's voice, and cosplays of Ghost. But most of them utilize audio taken from the Alone mission in Modern Warfare 2, where John Soap McTavish and Ghost chat over the radio while sneaking through a Mexican town. Take it off, Soap tells Ghost, referring to the skull mask he's worn in every Call of Duty appearance. Show my face, negative, Ghost says when Soap asks if he's ugly. Ghost responds, quite the opposite, in a voice that can be best described as a sexy growl. We reached out to Infinity Ward and Ghost's voice actor to see if they intended to make this sexy, but have yet to get confirmation.
So I've been made aware of this, and I've got to say, I don't understand why, because there's nothing that, unless it's sort of a big joke.
Sounds like a bit of a joke.
Then there's
Question TikTok. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense because it's just a man in a skull mask, and his voice, I don't think it's any more or less sexy than any of the other variety of Cockney accents or London gruff boys that are in Call
I think
of
it's
Duty.
got to be partly a joke because you can't see his face, which is,
Maybe.
I mean, I know that's not the only attractive part of a person's body, but it's, it's a bit weird. The idea of having any kind of bedroom fun with a man who refuses to take off his skull mask is funny, right?
It's got to be a joke, but from what I've seen, I don't see any sense of irony here at all. I feel like this is sincere, and I don't
I
understand.
think some of them are definitely ironic, but some
Okay.
of them are not.
The worst part is that Kotaku sent an email to, hey,
To his
just
voice
so you know,
actor. Did you
here's
mean to be a
some
sexy boy?
fan art.
It's real journalism.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
The audio is paired with a veritable smorgasbord of thirsty TikTokers, imagining what Ghost looks like when saying the line. Some draw diagonal pink lines on his face like an anime character blushing, while others suggest he's smirking through the line read or playfully kicking his feet behind him whilst lying prone. Others have gotten even more creative, whether it's squatting down like Megan Thee Stallion, wearing a G-string, or donning a full maid outfit.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Many TikTokers are either made by or targeted to femme and queer identifying individuals, which takes a traditional video game objectification formula and flips the script. There's a decidedly feminine gaze at play here, with posters focusing on Ghost's forearms or the timbre of his voice, turning what is ostensibly a totem for military industrialized masculinity and making him a little femboy. And then people are very angry about it, because of course they are. And yeah, basically someone commented on one of the posts saying, sexualizing him is worse than sexualizing minors.
Okay.
What? Okay.
Which is a terribly ice-cold take on something there. But yeah.
I don't understand any of this. I don't understand.
It's just the internet being its weird
It is.
self.
Yeah. It is very weird across the board.
They're calling it ghost talk.
Oh, for God's sake.
Right.
It's like for a little while I was on Jewish boy choir talk for like 3 months of just constant little boys singing Jewish songs, and I was having a great time. I'm not on Ghost Talk. I haven't seen any of these, but
well, your phone's
I'm
listening
going to go
to you,
searching
you
for
might-
it now.
Yeah, you'll get
Yeah.
it next time. It'll pop up now. My weird news comes from Cameron J. Keywood, and it's a Pushsquare article called "We Were Denied a Grand Theft Auto movie starring Eminem. Proof the Earth is a cold, dead place."
why do we want things to start Eminem?
I don't know.
Isn't he a bit of a douchebag?
Is he?
I don't know. Is he?
I think he might be. I'm going to look it up.
All right. I kind of don't want to know. Please don't ruin Eminem.
I thought Eminem is sort of
I'll keep
one
it
of
to
the good
myself.
ones, isn't he? But I might be wrong.
I've no idea. Everyone is problematic. in
Yeah.
I think
some
obviously
way.
when he was younger, he had I think he's got a criminal record from when he was a youth. But I think as he's sort of post fame, post height of his fame, I think he's
I can't remember if... I think his daughter is trans, and I can't remember if he is supportive of them.
Oh,
or
really?
not.
Okay.
Not like Elon level of his daughter is trans and he refuses to admit that she exists kind of level, but sorry, you
Right.
carry on.
Yeah, I will. In what should be considered definitive proof we live in objectively the worst timeline, Rockstar actually rejected a pitch for a Grand Theft Auto movie starring none other than Marshall Mathers' Eminem himself. Worse, it was during the height of Slim Shady's powers in 2001, fresh off the success of both the record-breaking Marshall Mathers LP and the Academy Award-winning movie 8 Mile. The news comes to us via an interview between the BBC and games industry veteran Kirk Ewing, a personal friend of the Hauser brothers, Sam and Dan, the founders of Rockstar. According to Ewing, a Hollywood agent approached the brothers with a $5 million offer for the rights to a movie starring Eminem and directed by Tony Scott of Top Gun fame. Sam Hauser reportedly responded to the offer with a simple, "not interested." Ewing elaborated, noting that they realized that the media franchise they had was bigger than any movie that was going on at the time. Ewing himself designed State of Emergency, published by Rockstar Games and released on PS2. Around the time the offer was made, GTA 3 was itself blowing up in a major way. And then it goes on to say what Grand Theft Auto is, which we don't know. But that would have been probably bad, right?
Probably.
There's probably no way that would have been good.
I think the only reason 8 Mile worked, which I've not seen in full, but I've seen bits of it, is because it was his story and it was quite sort of real in that sense. But to have him just come in as an actor and play someone else in a kind of very fictionalized story of a rising criminal, I think it would have been a bit cringe. It would have been a bit like, I don't know. Yeah, I can't see that being very good.
No.
His child is non-binary, but I think he is supportive of them.
Okay.
So I don't think I think he's okay.
Okay, so he's allowed to
Guys,
have potentially
I think he's
passed-
okay.
He's allowed to have potentially started a movie in 2001.
I don't know what it was like in 2001, but in 2021, I think he's okay.
Well,
Great.
in 2001, he just had a daughter who identified as a daughter.
That's true.
He did a song with her once, I think. She was in one of his less well-known songs as a child, just sort of rapping and stuff. So that was...
And then he got a 5-star wanted level and sped off into the night.
Yeah.
Let's move on to question 3.
This is from Winters in Berlin. It's a long question, but I will read it all because it's got context and stuff. Hello, the one and only BATP. Batup. I hope you're all plopless this week. Mods. People do love to make them, and people do love to play them, but they don't like to pay for them. But is this fair? Should mod creators be compensated for all their hard work? And who's responsible? After all, some games these days, such as Minecraft, have become inseparable from the mods made for them. Therefore, do the game's developers owe the modders a cut of sales, or at least a little pocket change for mods installed? Or should players be buying mods to be used in the games they love so much, which in itself would become a legal nightmare? I know that many mod makers do allow for donations or tips, but let's be honest, is that really compensation enough for all the time they spend painstakingly creating custom content, or in many cases fixing broken games that never receive the support they deserve? I would love to hear what the 3 Jumps think about this. Thank you for your time, Winters in Berlin.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Berlin.
Thank you, Winters in Berlin. I think certainly in terms of modders, whether they should get money from the people who use them, it's kind of up to the modder, isn't it? That like they know what they're doing. If they make a mod, if they put hours and hours into it and then make it freely available, that's their choice. And if they want to start kind of either surreptitiously charging for it, which is probably illegal, I imagine, but you know, it's not up to me to police that. But you know, if they wanted to make money from it, they could do that by posting it in certain places on the internet where they can charge for it. They have, you know, tip systems and so on and so forth. So in that sense, I think no modder should feel hard done by that they've made this mod, posted it freely available, and then suddenly, you know, sort of thinking, oh, but why am I not getting any money? I don't think any mod feels that way. So it's just you choose to enter that game if that's what you want to do and start making free mods. But what I will say is, although I think it sounds like a bit of a nightmare to get developers like paying modders as kind of third parties, you know, that seems kind of tricky to do. But what you do see sometimes is that some modders get hired by developers in the wake of making something very good. So, for example, some Cyberpunk modders have been hired by CD Projekt Red now. I think they were making mods that was sort of just fixing the game. It wasn't even additional content. It was just, hey, it works now. And Bethesda have hired in the past people who've modded Skyrim, and more recently they've hired a couple of people who've been working on that Fallout London project, just fan projects, like a free
That the Queen
thing.
will not be in.
No, she won't be. So I think that's the best you can hope for, and you know, well, maybe the 3 of us could come up with some kind of system whereby developers or publishers are paying modders. But I think that the easiest solution is to just, if you make your mods, you have to assume you're not going to make any money from it. Open up a tip jar. But maybe if you're very lucky, you might be hired by, or you know, get a job offer by the company in question, and I think that is fine.
So, the only mods that I actively use are on Minecraft and The Sims 4. And I'm going to talk specifically about The Sims 4 because that's the one I have the most experience with. So Sims 4 has 2 kinds of mod. They have like the gameplay mod, and then they have custom content, which is things like additional furniture or clothes or something that people have actively made using the meshes that have been put out by the Sims community. And they are all on a website called The Sims Resource, which is like a catalogue for just everything you could possibly want. Those modders that put stuff on there, they can get small amounts of money from downloads due to the site making money from ad revenue and people who pay for the Sims Resource. So if you're a big fan of like the content and you're using it a lot, some people do pay for like a subscription like monthly payment towards the Sims resource to give back to the modders that are on that site. The same way with like CurseForge and Overwolf, I want to say is the other one. They do pay modders for being on their apps, but they're like not very much and takes a while to build up money, and they do tend to be like PayPal or Amazon gift cards or something along those lines, rather than it being a direct payment into your bank account for every download that you get. And I know The Sims have recently partnered with them to make modding in their games a lot easier. And then also something that modders in the Sims 4 community do is they start Patreon accounts and they give early access to mods via these Patreon accounts, but they're not allowed to like specifically say, pay me money on my Patreon account and you'll get this mod pack. They can't make it behind a paywall. So they have to be like early access for like a month and then it'll come out to everyone else for free. But obviously they can't specifically be like, pay me on my Patreon and you'll get this, because otherwise it's like illegal, because it's like encroaching on a copyright, obviously. So there is ways that modders do get around it. Specifically, quite prevalently in the Sims community, there's a lot of modders that do have Patreons because they make like full Sims kits that people might pay like anywhere from £5 to like £20 for free. Like there'll be like a full kitchen kit that they've made everything for. But like Peter says, unfortunately, modders do this because they want to, not because that they specifically know they're going to get paid. And I think, unfortunately for them, games don't need them to keep their games afloat. Some people might only play modded, and some people might only play with custom content on Sims. But the vast majority of players will only play the game as is with the packs that they buy. So the Sims have no obligation to pay modders or even like employ them. They're being a bit more kind of like open dialogue between the Sims and the modding community now, and they are not employing but kind of like freelancing them for certain packs and things now, like Peter said, like getting work and stuff, which is really cool. But there's no obligation for companies to pay modders, because modders do this off their own back, and there'll always be more people modding things than there will be people who pay them or who need payment to mod things. So there's no point paying one, because there'll just be like 4 other pop up that can do the same thing for free. So yeah, there's no obligation to pay them, unfortunately. And as much as I love mods and modders, if you're doing it for the money, you're doing the wrong thing. So yeah.
I have never installed a mod in my entire life. I don't know how it works, and I wouldn't even know where to start. So my experience with mods is extremely limited, pretty much only to the kind of stuff that you were doing, Peter, with the Skyrim Zoo, back in 2018 when we were at Vidiots. So I've got no personal experience with mods whatsoever. However, as you guys have said, there would be a legal issue if mod creators started directly charging for things that they've done to games. That doesn't mean that modders don't deserve remuneration. And as you mentioned, Ashton, there are various ways that modders can go about that in certain communities. I know that there's the Creation Club with Bethesda, although there have been some people who've kicked up a bit of a stink about that, I think, just because the process is a bit arduous, and then maybe, the modders aren't getting paid as much as Bethesda are then charging for their work to other players. And the whole, at least it seems to me as an outsider, the whole point of mods largely, or the appeal, is that they are free of charge. And again, not that modders are not deserving of being paid for their efforts, but if you start charging for mods, if such a thing were legal, there's a good chance that people would just not download your mod, and they wouldn't want it, and they wouldn't use it, and they would seek alternatives. So hopefully there's a way in the future where there can be some kind of healthier mod community that can be encouraged by developers or publishers themselves. But as it stands, no, modders are not owed any money by publishers or developers, even if they're fixing their games. In fact, it seems to be a core strategy of Bandai Namco in particular, with the Souls Soul series on PC to just let the community fix it.
Yeah.
Because they know that they'll do that. They often release games in a really messed up state, and it's modders who end up fixing them.
Same with Bethesda as well on PC. They release. If you go and try and download certain mods for, say, Skyrim, it'll say almost every mod says, by the way, you must have the general like Skyrim fix patch installed for this mod to work, which is something that the community has come up with, and so that's almost like required reading, if you like. It's like a system requirement for any other mod to work, which is so Bethesda do the same for sure.
Yeah. Well, there we are. It's time to move on. Do something. It's pretty large. It is. I can't turn the page. There we are. It's the big discussion. It's big discussion time. Time for the big video game discussion that this week comes courtesy of Jack Bradshaw. Howdy Bap. At the time of the podcast recording, the nominees for this year's Game Awards will be announced, or the Game Awards, including the nominees for Game of the Year. With that said, what are your general thoughts on each nominated game? Which one do you want to win Game of the Year? And which one do you think will win Game of the Year? Thank you, Jack. So this is the Game Awards, Jeff's big annual extravaganza. We will be live reacting on the 8th of December.
Yes.
We'll be doing a later stream and reacting along, because no doubt there'll be loads of trailers and announcements and stuff like that.
It'll probably be at like 1 a.m. GMT.
I
till
certainly
like
hope
3
not.
a.m.
It was pretty reasonable last time, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't.
wasn't.
Last year
Was it
we
not?
finished at 3 a.m.
Oh, God.
Because it's the Gamescom and Summer Games Fest is at like 8 or 9.
Yeah.
Whereas Game Awards, they start in America at like 6 p.m. So they start here at like 1 in the morning.
As it stands, we have provisionally agreed to live stream it. We'll see how realistic that is. But I thought it was earlier. Clearly, I'm mistaken.
Because is this Leg's absolute delusional live stream that we did
Was
last
really
year was
late.
the Game
Oh, yeah,
Awards.
we were dressed in our formal wear.
Yeah.
We were wearing blazers and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, we've got the nominees. Peter, I don't suppose you've got them written down there.
Yeah, this is obviously just Game of the Year we're talking about here.
Yes.
So we have got Plague Tale Requiem. Sorry, A Plague Tale Requiem. Elden Ring, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, Stray, and Xenoblade Chronicles.
3.
3.
Three.
Sorry, I didn't actually write 3, but it is Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
Yes. So what do you think of the nominees generally?
I was quite surprised that God of War was included in the nominees for this year, considering that it came out less than a week before the nominees were announced. I know that obviously like reviewers got it like 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, whatever, and it's voted for by a publication. But I was by lots of publications. But before the nominees came out, I was genuinely wondering if God of War would even be included in this year's Game Awards because of how soon before it came out. I'm not surprised it's in this category, but I was surprised that it hit the cutoff to be considered for this year's game.
Yeah, as you say, they're like all the big outlets get these things weeks in advance, and so I don't think I was particularly surprised. I thought like, yeah, they've all played it. No one else has, but
The people who are on the board to nominate these games, well, and I suppose with a review score like that, going back to our discussion last week, whether or not it's justified, it's kind of undeniable. That it is amongst the biggest games of this year. So to leave it off would probably be a mistake.
Because I was worried that like it would get left off and put in for next year, and then it would get kind of forgotten because it was technically
it's
the year
been
before.
over a year since it came out.
Absolutely. Should we go through them one by one and just talk about how we feel about the chances and the merits of inclusion? A Plague Tale Requiem.
I haven't played it.
I mean, I've not played it. I've heard about it.
I got an hour in and it annoyed me too much. I uninstalled it from my computer.
It seems like to me there are 2 or 3 in this list that are just there because they wanted a healthy amount, and no one is under any illusion that A Plague Tale Requiem has any chance of winning this. I'm not saying...
But we didn't think It Takes Two was going to win last year.
Well, that's true. That's true.
And I'm not saying that this is by any means on the same level as It Takes Two was last year, but it was quite a shocker
Well, and
that
I'm also...
Jacob Fares was on that stage last year.
And I'm also not saying that... it's so bad. What the hell is it doing on this list? I'm just saying that there are 2 or 3 other games in this list that are clearly just better than it, and so there's no way. Or again, you make a good point, Ashton, but
They've got less of a chance.
Yeah.
I don't know what the groundswell of support even is for a Plague Tale Requiem. I don't know how the weighting is voted because I've taken a screenshot of their website and it says sign in to vote. And I don't know if it's 50% judges, 50%
I think it's
votes, or...
I don't know. I think everyone obviously can pick one, but I don't know. I assume it would just be like mainly popular vote for it, maybe. But
I'm happy to see it here, but I have no intention of going back to this game now. I've kind of made peace with that.
Did you finish it?
No.
Oh.
No. I played like maybe 2 hours of it. I really didn't get that far at all. But as we talked about on the podcast, there are a lot of things that I just thought weren't. You okay?
I hit my funny bone.
Oh no. I just wasn't a huge fan of it, and I was really looking forward to it, as we discussed on the podcast before then. And I'm glad to see it here, and I'm glad to see it recognized, but I don't know that this would have the broad appeal of an It Takes Two.
Yeah.
I don't think it has any chance of winning, personally.
No.
I think they had to put an Xbox game in. And I also think that they definitely didn't. I don't think anyone this year has 5 games that they think are the best games they've played this year. Because I'm struggling to think of 5 that would be my top 5 for the year. And I wonder, like you said, if they were like, well, we definitely have 3. We probably need another 3 to get in there. And this one just happened to be one of the biggest games that was released this year.
Maybe.
But I haven't heard anyone talking about it.
No.
James apparently finished it. He's not mentioned it one time since he did the Cryptscope with you. I don't know, anyone who's currently playing it, I think it's been overshadowed by other games that have come out. And I think that...
I just don't think it's as
not
good as
gonna
other
win.
games that have come out either. As strong as the premise and the setting is, I just think gameplay-wise, and
It's a shame, really. Next is Elden Ring. I think personally this could be one of the contenders. You know, I've not played it. It's not my kind of thing, but I'm aware of just the impact it had and just all the coverage I saw and the presence on social media at the time. And that's even, you know, with me in hopefully algorithmically a place where I don't get a whole load of Soulsborne style content fed to me, but nevertheless it certainly filtered through just because it was that popular.
yeah.
I think Elden Ring is going to win, and I have a theory as to why. Because I think people who are fans of God of War will be fans of Horizon Forbidden West. And I think that those two have a very similar fan base and a very similar number of people who would vote for them, that they will be split between the two of them.
Yeah.
But Elden Ring has a very dedicated fan base who are very loud and very toxic on the internet and say Elden Ring is the best game ever made, nothing will ever touch it, best game ever, everything else is a hashtag dead game. And I think that they will be voting for Elden Ring in their like thousands, if not more, because I think the others will split the group.
The vote.
It's a bit like UK politics.
It is a little bit crazy. But I think Elden Ring will win. And like I said, I haven't played it, but I don't want it to win because I don't want all of the boys on the internet who are really loud about Elden Ring to have something else to put on every single post about Horizon or God of War. I don't want them to every
Where
post
are you going
ever.
that you're seeing all of these posts all the time?
When Jeff Keighley put up a post being like, who do you think is going to be nominated for Game of the Year? And every single response was, Elden Ring is the only game worth playing this year. Every other game was rubbish. Or if it's not Elden Ring, it's a load of rubbish. Elden Ring's best game ever. And I just don't like that energy. And I don't want that energy to persist. And I want Horizon to beat it so I can be like, oh, best game ever, is it? Best game
Would
ever.
you like Elden Ring to win?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mainly to annoy Ashton,
Yeah, thank
but
you.
also because it is an excellent game.
Yes.
And you're right, Peter, the impact across social media, you could not get away from it.
Yeah.
The insane sales numbers. This was more of a cultural phenomenon than I think of any of the other games, perhaps apart from a cat one that we'll talk about in a minute. I've not seen that level of discussion online or that level of memery that it just went everywhere. And I would not be shocked if that won. I think Elden Ring is probably one of the front runners.
Yeah, I do. I also personally don't want it to win, not necessarily for the reasons you don't want it to win, Ashton, but because I am not a fan of how certain kind of Soulsborne mechanics and features are creeping into other games because other developers and publishers think, hey, this is really good and this is really popular. I don't like that, my Star Wars game had,
I
Dark
didn't like
Souls
that your Star
combat.
Wars game had an either.
Why you put Star Wars in my Soulsborne game?
Yeah, the second one's coming out and will undoubtedly have the same kind of style and the winding paths and stuff like that. I totally appreciate like why other people enjoy that kind of stuff, and I'm not saying like that's a bad game design or why do people like this rubbish? Like that's not it at all. For me, it's not something that I want to see much more of in games other than in its own Soulsborne corner, because it kind of extends games, I think, in terms of difficulty. And I'm, as I've said before earlier on in the podcast and in many previous podcasts, I have so little time to play games nowadays, and so any excuse for some developer to like make their game even longer by adding hard combat and winding paths is not a good thing for me. So that's why I don't want Elden Ring to win. But that's the only reason.
That's a good
I can still appreciate it objectively as to why it's such a good game.
I can also appreciate objectively that it is a good game, and I'm not saying that it's a bad game because people on the internet are loud.
I totally understand why you guys are saying what you're saying, but I think your fears, they've already come true.
Yeah, oh well, they have.
I think the
we don't want
sales.
it to get worse.
I don't think the Game Awards Game of the Year award is prestigious enough to push any extra eyeballs on this game.
No.
Unfortunately, I think the fact that Elden Ring sold 10 billion copies has pretty much cemented those mechanics into games for years to come, and it not winning the Game Awards Game of the Year maybe a small sort of victory.
It would be a personal victory, I think.
But I think, unfortunately, for people who aren't a fan of those mechanics, I think the damage has been done.
Yeah, that is true.
It's coming for you, and it will be there in your next Spyro game. So I hope you're ready for that. God of War Ragnarok. It's none of us have finished it.
No,
because it has just come out.
I haven't started it. But we'll do by the next time.
It's an excellent game.
Yeah.
Not surprised it's there. Can't really say much more about it than that. I think this is going to come down to how much the weighting is voted. The voting is voted is what I meant to say, obviously. Because if it does have sort of a critical, what am I trying to say? Sort of like judges are involved in the voting as well as fans at home. Then I think God of War could be a front runner by virtue of that alone. But if it's weighted more towards people voting at home, then I think you're right, Ashton. I think the vote could be split between Horizon and God of War. So I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked if it won. Yeah, but I don't really know what to say. Like, I wouldn't be mad if it won.
God of War has the most nominations in other categories. I think it has a grand total of 10, whereas Horizon and Elden Ring, I think, both have 7. Okay. So God of War has the most of any game that's in the... But they also have two
voice acting
in the voice acting ones.
So it could clean up in other categories and not take Game of the Year, or it could take Game of the Year and not do very well in other categories. But I genuinely don't know how it could play out. It's just so soon that it's hard to say.
I do think, you mentioned a certain cat game did have a bit of a social media kind of phenomenon. And I do think I'm seeing a lot of God of War at the moment. And maybe that is just because it's launch week and it might not last, another 7 days to the level that it's at. And I think both in the case of God of War and Stray, they're still both not comparable to how much I saw Elden Ring. But yeah, I think if we're also considering Stray for the kind of the social media presence, I personally have seen a lot of God of War as well, sort of almost to a comparable level as Stray. So if that's a component worth factoring in, then I think it's up there, at least with one of the sort of second place, kind of a runner-up level in terms of social media.
I voted for Horizon Forbidden West when I did my votes the other day. Not because I don't think God of War... I don't know. A part of me thinks that God of War might be my favourite game of the year, But also part of me has this bias internally that's like, Horizon's the best game because I love Horizon. But I do think that, like I say, fans of one will be fans of the other. And I think that it will be a toss-up between whether you prefer the larger open world that Horizon gave us versus the smaller open world linear for God of War. And I think the people who have less time will probably prefer, actually, I don't know, because it's 50 hours long, and I think Horizon was maybe only 60 hours long. So
only 60.
Well, yeah, only 60. But yeah, I do think that God of War is in with a shout for sure. And I also do think Horizon Forbidden West is in with a shout, but maybe I just don't think it's quite got the backing that God of War and Elden Ring has, unfortunately, for Horizon Forbidden West.
Horizon, Ben? What do you think?
I don't think Horizon stands a chance, unfortunately. I think even if the votes split, God of War probably still comes out on top.
Yeah.
Recency bias, higher review score, whatever you want to call it. I think God of War is going to come out ahead of Horizon. Not that they announce where the games stand, but if I were to predict, I don't think Horizon's going to win Game of the Year.
Well, and also I imagine the stinky toxic boys, let's face it, mostly boys, but not all boys, stinky toxic boys who aren't so pro Elden Ring and are at least open to other things would probably favour God of War, beard man with fists and axe over woman with beard.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stray.
I'm just sad about Aloy.
I just hope Ashley Birch.
I hope Ashley Birch wins.
Stray, she'll be crying into her millions of dollars. She'll be okay.
Yeah, I know she will.
Stray is so far the only game on this list that I've played until I give God of War a go. But Stray, I don't think it's Game of the Year material.
No, but it could be a quirky outsider.
It could be, and it's probably going to be in my top 5. You know, we don't call it Game of the Year because that implies sort of objective quality, and sometimes it's more the fun we had with it. But we do a 5 games of the year, best games, favorite games thing, and it's probably going to be one of those for me because I thought it was a really nice little package. You know, not too big, bit different. You play as a cat, that's great. Interesting world and nice music and all these sorts of things. Interesting gameplay as well. Like, I didn't quite expect it to play exactly the way it did. I thought it'd be a bit more walking sim-ish and not have as much of the occasional action chase sequences and stuff. So yeah, Stray I think is a really good game, and it probably deserves to be. You know, if someone said, how many are there? 6.
6, yeah.
6, yeah. If someone said, give us 6 nominees, I might have put it as my number 6 because, as you said, Ashton, I'm sort of struggling this year to come up with, you know, that many really good, obvious games of the year. So I think it deserves to be there, but it's not going to win.
I think it is the Kana of this year, and I think that it has done what it set out to do, and it is a really good game in what it is. But I do, like you say, think that it just doesn't have the backing that Elden Ring has. I think that not enough people have played it because it was just on PlayStation, whereas Elden Ring was on pretty much everything. And I think that, like the same issue I think Xenoblade Chronicles will have with it just being on Switch, I think that unfortunately there's a lot of divisiveness in the PlayStation categories that we've seen. And I do think it will win other categories that it's nominated in. I hope it will win indie, even though, I mean, technically it's not really an indie because Annapurna isn't really an indie studio. But I do think that it should win that, given by what else it's nominated against. And I do think it's a really good game, and I hope it wins a couple of the awards it's nominated for. But I don't think it's going to win this. But hey, maybe we'll get an It Takes Two situation. I highly doubt it, because It Takes Two was a bit of a wild card entry last year. I can't even remember what it was up against, but I genuinely don't even think any of us even considered It Takes Two.
I want someone from Annapurna to just walk up on stage and swear into the microphone.
Flip the Oscars. Stray was on PC, I'm fairly sure.
Oh, yeah, it might have been, yeah.
I think this is a dark horse. I think it could
You think it's going to It Takes Two it?
It Takes Two. It could Untitled Goose Game it.
You think? Maybe.
It could swoop in. The memesters could really have their, like, can you imagine if Stray beat God of War to Game of the Year, or Elden Ring to Game of the Year? I think it could do it. I don't know how likely it is, but I think it's more likely than Horizon.
Yeah.
Criminally. As much as I enjoyed Stray, I think it could do it.
I think
I wouldn't
it could.
mind if it did, but I don't think it's super
It would be
likely.
an upset, I think, if it did. But also, I think it would be like really cool. I think it would be an upset to like a certain like critical responses.
I think it's the way to, not that you need
but-
to, but I think it's the way to please everyone
Yeah.
is to just have a dark.
Who
have
can be
their silly
angry at the cat game?
Have the silly cat game. win.
When you say, Untitled Goose Game and It Takes Two, that suddenly makes it way
Yeah,
more likely.
it
does seem more
Of
likely,
course,
doesn't it?
actually,
It
Stray
could do it.
could win. Yeah.
The last one is Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which none of us have played.
No.
Not really any of our wheelhouses, but there's a dedicated following for that game. There might be some partisan politics going on where the core Nintendo fans vote for the game that was on the Nintendo platform. I don't think it's going to win, though, personally.
I forgot to say something about Stray. I don't have anything to say about Xenoblade Chronicles. I don't think it's got the backing because it's a Switch-only game. And I don't know anyone who's playing it. And with Stray,
Jack will have played it.
I think that I think it's going to have a lot of vote from the old women and queer folk that are out there who have been more vocal this year in gaming.
The cat is a big queer
The
icon.
cat is a big queer
of
icon,
course.
gay cat, and I think that
Gay cat?
Yeah, that's not anything.
Do we know? I don't remember
That's
that.
his
bit.
universe name.
It's
Gay
gay.
cat.
Oh, it's you, gay cat. I think that all the cozy gamers out there that have taken the world by storm, so much so that Wholesome Gaming did their own convention presentation this year. I think that, hey, maybe they'll all vote for Stray because they're like, none of my other cozy games are on there, but the gay cat game's on there. Just that I don't think it's the gay cat game.
You talk about splitting the votes. All the cat people will vote for Stray, whereas all the dog people will have to split between 5 different games.
That's
So,
true. Well, God of War does have lots of dogs in it.
Wow.
Active dog petting in God of War, and God is dog backwards, so maybe they'll
That's
vote for that.
That's it. You cracked
Yeah,
it.
done it.
Well, there we are. Let us know what you think of the Game of the Year nominations for the Game Awards coming at the beginning of December, and who you think is going to take the top prize. We'd like to know. But that's the end of the podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Peter is going to tell you where you can find us on the internet.
YouTube.com and twitch.tv/Team TripleJump. Head to those for our video and live stream content. We stream on both. And when we are streaming on both, we are modded by Lord Brotovich, Trailing Badger, and Mr. Black. So thank you, mods. If you've got Amazon Prime, part of the whole bundle there includes a Twitch sub. It won't cost you anything extra. It's just in there. So consider spending that on us, and you get all the normal benefits. And we, I think, get the financial benefit. The only loser, I think, is maybe Jeff Bezos. Possibly.
Maybe.
Who knows?
I don't really know who. Someone's got to be losing there. Twitter.com and Facebook.com/Team TripleJump for video content, live stream announcements, bits of news, and all sorts of chit chat.
I think it's the planet that's losing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess so. By supporting it. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Maybe I'm the loser because here I am floundering. Fraser looks after our social media. Thank you, Fraser, for looking after Twitter and Facebook. TikTok.com/@Team TripleJump for our TikTok. We'll probably have something on there about Ghost at some point, right?
Yeah.
Looking sexy.
I'm going to make a sexy ghost post.
Yeah. And patreon.com/Team TripleJump. There are loads of different tiers on there. Everything from, asking questions on the podcast and seeing After Dark, all the way up to me painting a painting for you, which someone went in on this week. So
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
do that if you like.
We have a website, triplej.mup, that's triplej.mp. Spells jump. It's very clever. If you want to join our Discord, why not go to triplej.map/Discord and chat with our wonderful community. On Discord, we're modded by Jack, Joe, Tori, and Hollow Eyes. And if they to do something, bloody well do it. There's been a bit of a revamp in there recently. All of the channels have moved around, so go check it out. It's extra cool now. If you want to listen to podcasts in its audio forms, maybe you're on a long flight to Latvia this weekend and you've only brought your backpack with you. Why not go to triplej.mup/podcast, listen to it in its audio forms. If you want to check out one of our live stream VODs, go to triplej.mup/VODs or book one of us three or James Jenkins on Cameo at triplej.mup/Cameo.
I think I got an email about Black Friday.
Yeah, there's like a
that's
sale or
scheduled
something
through.
coming on.
To say, hey, it's 20% off from Monday the 21st to Wednesday the 23rd of
Did
November.
you?
Yeah.
Is that on the TripleJump or your?
No, just on mine, but with the TripleJump link.
Gotcha.
But maybe we should do it from TripleJump
Yeah, we
as
should.
well.
Yeah.
We got a question on the After That podcast that was like, do you feel like you're, I'm trying to think of a PC term for, well, I guess it's not really a bad word.
You can probably say.
Do you feel like you're whoring yourself out for Cameo?
Oh, absolutely.
And
yeah.
I said, yeah, but I'm fine with it.
I said I don't mind because...
I feel bad. I want to make it worth your money. I'm working extra hard.
Should we, as customers of you guys, feel like we're making you whore yourself out? And my answer was no, because we've elected to go on Cameo.
Yeah.
yeah,
so
we
you
could
shouldn't
we
feel
could
like
not be on Cameo.
Yeah.
Get those Christmas messages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll do it for you. TripleJumpShop.com for all the latest merch, and at TripleJumpShop on Twitter for the latest merch announcements. You can go buy this lovely jacket, this lovely t-shirt, and other stuff that's still available.
Oh, and this one.
Oh, and the Is This Leg shirt is available.
This Leg shirt?
I think the Ashton pins are still on there as well, so check it out.
Go get them. Why not follow Peter and Ashton on Instagram and Twitter at that Peter Austin and at Scrambled Ashton, and myself just on Twitter at confused_dude. We do lists every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, streams every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday being solo streams on Twitch, Thursday being the joint stream.
Blaze it.
On YouTube. Worst Games Ever is fortnightly. Friday for patrons, that's the day. Sunday for everyone else. And it's not a Worst Games Ever week this week. The podcast is every Saturday. We do shows all the bloody time. Come check them out on the channel. And why not leave us a 5-star review on your platform of choice? It helps to do with something. You right?
Yep.
Helps something to do with Al Gore's rhythms.
Guys,
What?
the Tat Appeal is now closed.
Beep, 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 beep.
Stop sending your stuff. If you've only very recently put something in a post box and it's in there now and you can't get it back out,
Got about a week or so.
Don't panic. We've
Don't
got
panic.
about a week grace period to allow the latecomers to arrive, but that probably won't allow you to send something now and it arrive. So don't send anything.
We've got a week of us to prepare our bodies and our souls before we record the
Detox
Tat
diet.
Appeal. Given by the size of the pile currently, it might even be longer than last year.
Oh,
So
boy.
we are prepared to sacrifice ourselves for the Tat Pile.
It's no sacrifice.
No, it's very
It's
exciting.
a privilege.
It is
It
a
is.
joy.
And thank you, everyone who has sent your Tatten. We've only had one slip.
Yeah.
We got a slip, did we?
About customs charges and stuff, and
$50.
It gives £50.
Pounds.
It gives no information
Name,
about what it
nothing.
is. Nothing. So
It was posted on Halloween, was it?
yeah. If you posted something on the 31st of October from abroad,
Did it
That's-
say America or not?
not sure. I will have to double check. There was frustratingly little information on the letter. It came through parcel
might have
force.
specified America, but I can't say.
I
for
feel like
certain.
that, but
Yeah.
I'm not certain.
If it is your parcel, we won't pay it, but it will come back to you.
Oh.
Ooh, it will come back to you, so you will get it.
Oh,
Back.
screen's flickering. We need to wrap up. That's the
Oh no,
go,
it's froze.
That's the go home cue. Suppose we'll just
Every
you wanna
Fallout
do
3
anything about
quest
it?
is ranked on Friday. That's already out. And also Worst Games Ever Season 2, which is a big long omnibus of... it's a
So
terrible
we're just
one.
going to leave it like
No,
that.
we're
are
just
we?
leave-
I didn't
hey,
realize there was more.
Yeah, there's a
It's
little
just
bit.
that,
There's a little
but
bit of housekeeping.
we're done now. We could
Can
just leave it like this.
Can we
Hang
just
on.
just hide it and
Where is
bring
it?
it back?
Webcam.
GH1.
No, the one underneath video capture
Oh,
device. You got to
No,
deactivate
You
it.
got to deactivate it first.
Actually, just
Peter.
got... Yeah.
Oh, defaults.
Oh.
Oh,
okay.
Okay, well, we
I
are.
saw DE and thought that said deactivate.
Could have ruined it.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Oh, does it seem out of sync now with the audio?
Oh, that's
Who
all right.
knows what's happened? Anyway, it doesn't matter. As Ashton said, there is every Fallout 3 quest ranked from worst to best. That's a big, long video.
It's
what have you
worse
done now?
now.
Doing it again.
It's worse.
Flickering on and
Okay,
off.
we're going to have to get Dan and talk to him about what's happened there. And yeah, big old Worst Games Ever Season 2, 6 months worth of
Omnibus.
Worst Games Ever episode going out. Just enough time to talk about this week's sponsor once again, which is, of course, Dark Pictures Antilogy, which
Yes.
is out now for schools.
Only for schools.
Only for schools. Thank you for watching, everybody. Look after yourselves. We'll see you next week.
We'll be back.
Bye.
Bye.